Hi, I'm Federico from Innerwave Studio, and today we're producing a dark pop track, and it's gonna sound something like this. Alright, so this track was heavily inspired by Tate McRae's song 2hands, which I absolutely love, and I wanted to make it very danceable because she's also a dancer, so with a lot of groove but also a lot of melody. And it also has that 2000 nostalgia, which is going very viral right now in recent pop with artists like herself but also the Kid Laroi, which I really like as well, and to be honest, I love this. So let's jump right into it. So the most important part of a song like this is definitely the drums, which basically dictates how the song feels. So let's start with those. For the verse, I wanted it to feel very groovy, so I added a lot of different perks. This is how the drums sound. So very groovy, a lot of different stuff happening. The kick pattern is pretty simple, and this is how it sounds. Went for a more boxy kind of sound, so the chorus feels bigger and more open. Let's actually hear just the kick and the snares. So as you can hear, what makes this type of arrangement very special is the perks. So let's hear just the perks. And of course you gotta have the cowbell in a song like this. We also have this hop and hi-hat and crash on the one of every beat. So what I did here is play a lot of stuff on the upbeat, because I think that's really what makes the groove of the song. And as I've said, it has to be very danceable, because it's kinda a Tate McRae type beat, so it has to be very groovy. Moving on to the pre-chorus, we have a more stripped down version of the drums, which sound like this. And then into the chorus. So what I'm doing is basically leaving just the kick and the snare. I'm removing the upbeat snare, and what I'm adding is this drum loop. Just for texture, and we also have this second texture loop. I really think stuff like this makes the song feel more interesting. And then we also have this automated snare that I've called snare riser, which goes ping pong left and right. And then it goes into this feel pre. That's a really cool drum feel I found. And before we go into the chorus, let's just hear the intro drums, which are very simple. I'm not entirely sure where they came from, but I'm pretty sure what I did is I've resampled the drums in the verse, and then I added a decapitator to make it more lo-fi and more crunchy, and then a micro shift to make it a bit more interesting. And it goes into the drum break, just to make the transition smoother. So let's hear the drums coming from the intro to the verse. And now let's hear the pre-chorus coming into the chorus. So much busier drums. There's also an hi-hat going for basically all of the chorus. We have some more perks, some new stuff. I wanted it to feel pretty new, so I added basically all different drums compared to the verse. So this is how the kick sounds. bigger and more open. I also added this kind of stompy kick on the one, just to make a statement. Then the snares. This is how the perks and the toms sound by themselves. Out of Fully. I tried to make the drums a bit more interesting than regular drums, so I use some stuff that maybe isn't usually used in stuff like this that I use as percussions, and I really like the result. Then let's hear just the cymbals. So a lot of accents. You know, it has to be explosive, it has to be exciting. Let's hear the drums in context. I'm really proud of these drums, to be honest. For the rest of the song is basically the same, is again verse, chorus, then we have a break, then again the chorus. The only new thing that happens again in the drums is that I basically took part of the verse drums and I automated this decapitator just to make it crunchier and more lo-fi. Basically a different version of the lo-fi drums, and it sounds like this. And that's basically the outro of the song, so it goes from the final chorus to this outro. Just to make the end of the song a bit more interesting. Then moving on to the synths, which is a regular amount of tracks, to be honest. Not a lot, but not even so little. Starting with the intro, which is kinda the same chord progression of the chorus, but a bit different. And it sounds like this. So we have this pad vintage, sounds like this. I wanted this part to feel very vintage, very kinda radio, so I went for very thin sounds and very crunchy sounds. Then we have these strings that do a little of a color response to the vocal. Which is basically a Leslie. Then we have this bass. Classic Chris bass, but filtered. Then we have this loop that I found. Very, very cool tape loop. And finally this Vox, like a chop thing that I found. This without processing. And this with processing. So what's doing the heavy lifting is basically this beat crusher. As I've said, I want it to feel very radio, very distorted and strange. As in the intro of 2hands, which is also that kind of vibe. Then moving on to the verse, left it very simple melody-wise, because I wanted the drums to take over, to shine a bit in that moment, because I saw the verse kind of a dance moment, and the chorus is like the hooky moment, so where you're paying more attention to the vocals, where in the verse is more like a vibe, you're vibing to the beat. So the chord progression is a bit more static, and we have this arrow 8 that sounds like this. Very glidey. I did a lot of gliding on it, as you can see. I want it to feel very groovy, as I've said. If you can hear it, I recommend using some headphones with good bass. Then we have this synth that is basically doing a color response. It's very quiet, just to add some ambience to the song, to the verse. Then we have this vocal chop. So all together. And also think it's very important to have these little moments of call and response, of these little moments of silence that create a lot of tension, a lot of pull and release. It's what I think makes a song great and interesting and kind of sets itself apart from other songs. Then moving on to the pre-chorus, we have again a Leslie, like in the intro, but this time I think it's is a loop I found. Sounds like this. Very cool, creates some tension. And then we also have this pad that is present also in the chorus. This is a patch I found just to give it more movement to the parts. And then it goes into the chorus. I will start with the bass, which I think is really important in this part, and it sounds like this. It's a wrist bass sound. Very distorted, very big. So even though the song is in D minor, I've started all the chord progressions on an A sharp, that then goes on a C and then a D. And this is just a pricing note, but the actual chords are an A sharp major 6 that then goes into a C major 6 that then goes into a D minor, which at least in the chorus is twice as much as the other chords. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's move to the brass, which just follows the root notes, and it sounds like this. Very big, very cinematic, is another patch I found. Then we have the pad that was also in the pre-chorus. The same thing, just a bit louder. Then we have another pad. This is thinner, and just to add some shine. Then we have these chord stops. This is what I think makes the chorus interesting and gives it a bit more movement. And it's because I used a different inversion of the chorus, and they also change during the chorus, as you heard. They're basically just the same chorus, but I just changed the octaves of some notes, so it sounds fresh and actually sounds like a different chorus, even though it's not. I don't know if it makes sense. Then we have this synth lead that is like the Weeknd inspired lead, and I think it's really used in this dark pop kind of tracks. Again, following the root notes, we just have this G that is just on the last chord of the chorus, and just to make it a bit more explosive and give it more of a transition to the next part. And this is another preset I found. I probably tweaked it a bit to make it a bit more ambient. Yeah, probably raise the mix a bit, and most importantly, I took the portamento on a very high value, so it's basically 200 milliseconds. So it takes a lot of time to go into the next note, and it creates this very gliding effect that is very used in this kind of songs. Then we have this bell that creates a counter melody. Not very spacey, but we already have a lot of elements. So if I would crank the reverb even higher, this will just make a mess and we wouldn't really hear the actual bell. Let's hear everything in context. So actually let me do this so you can hear for yourself. We have this part where you can clearly hear the bell. So let me just take the Valhalla and make it to 100%, just to exaggerate what I'm saying. And again. You hear as the notes are much clearer. So that's why the mix is just on 45, which is actually not so little, but I could have gone with a higher value. But for this element, which is actually already pretty quiet, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. And finally we have this siren, which is a sound that is very popular in dark pop, and it sounds like this. I just made it a bit lo-fi, so it doesn't compete with other things that are happening in the highs and the lows. Okay, then as far as verses and chorus go, they're basically all the same, but we have a post-chorus after the second chorus, where there's actually a key change, and it sounds like this. Since this song is pretty repetitive, I wanted this part to feel pretty new, and so yeah, that's why I added a key change. Not very used in modern pop, but I think it sounds great in this occasion. And the chords go from a D sharp to an F to a C, and then a passing D. And as you can see in the chord subs, I've done the same thing I did in the first chorus. As you can see, I've also changed some of the notes, so it sounds a bit different from the other synths. And we also introduced this lead that sounds like this. Very analog, also kind of the Weeknd vibe. And I really like when there's a lead that's very simple, that is kind of composed of 2 to 3 notes. And it goes through a chord progression, so every time there's a new chord, the lead feels different and makes the part more energetic and also more melodic in my opinion. This lead is also present in the final chorus, so this is how it sounds with the whole chorus. We also have this robot bridge that happens after the post-chorus, which is basically the same elements of the intro. So let's hear that. And so at this point I will also introduce the effects I've added. As you can see, there's some of them, not too much, but definitely not too little. I think effects is what makes a song feel finished and more modern. And since this song is very modern, and I'm trying to emulate a very high-class kind of production, I try to sprinkle some stuff here and there. So let's actually start with the dropout bridge, and this is the stuff I've added. Salute. So again, I wanted to give it like a more vintage vibe. I added this VHS sounds and noises. We also have a lot of different risers, impacts. Let's hear the ones that go from the intro to the verse. Then we have this one, this other one. These are the impacts that go on the chorus. Then we also have these other ones. Also to accentuate a different part of the chorus. So you can hear a lot of different stereo sounds that go left, right. That's some ear candy things that maybe you don't notice the first time you hear a song, but are the things that I think makes you listen to a song multiple times, and that makes a production interesting. Okay, so at this point I will check the master bus for who is interested in that kind of stuff. So first of all, we have this virtual mix rack, just to give it some saturation, some vibe, and I'm pinning it down, to be honest. Yeah, no mercy on that thing. Then we have a bus compressor, just to glue things. Yeah, it goes on maximum 3 dB on the toms. And I'm using a 2.5 ratio with the fastest release and 30 milliseconds attack. So not very aggressive, to be honest. Also using this high pass filter so it doesn't trigger too much on the low bass. Then we have this EQ. I'm just giving it a bit of shine from 16K and up, and also cutting a lot of low mids around 400, 350, 4 dBs. But to be honest, this is not a digital EQ. I mean, it is a digital EQ, it's a plugin, but it doesn't work like maybe a Pro Q. So if I would cut 4 dB on a Pro Q, it would be very noticeable. But with this, you don't really hear it. Let me just go on and off with it. So as you can hear when I have it on, you just have more space in the low mids, you just hear it open a bit, but it doesn't sound like 4 dB to me. Then we have this Joe Wanasek BG Mix, just for the no small time button and the transformer. Makes a lot of difference, makes the mix more open, also more 3D in my opinion. Then we have a clipper, just shaving off the peaks. Going just a little bit. Then we have Oxford Inflator, just to make it a bit louder. Also a bit crunchier, to be honest. And finally a limiter. Not even 2 dB, so it's very little gain reduction. And this is just for reference. This is for referencing, digital spectrum analyzer, and this is for streaming my audio from my interface. And that's it. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe and leave a comment. It really helps me since I'm just starting out. And let's just hear the song one last time, and I'll see you very soon in another video.